of their tent or their hut or their cave. And that altar was the threshold, was the difference between inside and outside. And everything inside is mine, it's my world, it's my life, and everything outside is wilderness, it's wild, it's out to get me, natural disasters, scary things, beasts and monsters and mammoths trying to, do stuff. But then, when you think about it, you're sacrificing an animal right on the threshold. So it's bloody, it's messy. You're giving it to your deity, whoever you worship, whether it's, the true God or some God that you imagined. And you're asking something from that deity. You're saying, please protect my home. Protect me. Protect my family. Protect everything that is me and mine. And then everything that's outside, I don't care about. That's for them to worry about. But this is mine. This is my area. Please protect. And so that's where the holiness of the threshold began. So they wouldn't step on the threshold. They would cross over the threshold because, that's where you've sacrificed an animal for your God. Now, it's interesting. But when man developed and decided, okay, you know what? It's a good idea to probably build a temple for my God. Archaeologists have discovered that the first altar or temple is actually two stone structures next to each other. What does that look like? Doorposts. A doorway. Altars. We have this idea that the first temple was just like a table where they sacrificed the animal. That's not true. That came much later. And that structure was within another structure. And that structure was actually a doorway. So they considered their deity and their access to God as a doorway. And where there is a threshold, there's an altar, and where there's an altar, there's sacrifices. So they would sacrifice right at the doorway. And I can prove it to you through the Bible. Let's go to Genesis 11:9. It's on the board. You don't have to worry about it. We're going there. But Genesis 11 is the story of the Tower of Babel. Now, we all know that story, right? They built this thing, the structure, and they wanted to, get to God somehow. And it says in the Bible, that is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. Now, the word for confused in Hebrew is the word belel. It looks nothing like Babel to me. I don't know what's going on. I think what I think is that whoever wrote this, Moses, is doing a play on words. You see, he's calling Babel Belal, and he's doing a play on words, because Babel is actually a not very hard word to get the true meaning of. Babel is a compound word meaning Bab and El. Bab, in Semitic languages, which Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, and a couple other languages are the origin of, Bab, to this day, in Arabic and Aramaic, not in Hebrew anymore, they've changed the word to something else, but to this day, Bab is door. And El is the word for God. So Babel actually means the door to God. What's sad and unfortunate is that if you open your Strong's Concordance and those guys, it says confusion. Let me tell you something. Only the English language is blessed by the ability of having two words that are completely different from one another that mean the same thing. No other language has that capability. You cannot have the same word that mean the exact same thing without adding something to the meaning. Okay? So, Babel is the door to God. Babylon, yes, it's true. It's a city of sin and filth and disaster, and the Bible represents it as just bad stuff. But Babylon, that's the word for it in Arabic. Babylon, it's the doorway to God. It's the gateway to God. That was the intent of the city. That was the purpose of the city. That's what they wanted from this city. You understand? Now, it's interesting. But when Jesus comes along, he says in, let's see what verse is that there. Matthew 7. He says, enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate, and broad the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. You see how in his language, in the way to relating to people, he is using the same analogy that people have used for thousands of generations in describing their access to God. They thought their access to God comes through a doorway. That's how they worshipped. And Jesus is using the same language. He's not making up new words. He's not making up fancy stuff. He's not being poetic about it. He's trying to relate to the people. This idea of a doorway actually moved into people. It's interesting. Pharaoh, where I'm from Egypt, by the way, if you don't know me, if you've never seen me before, I'm from Egypt. And we know pharaohs a lot. We like pharaohs. Pharaohs are pretty cool. But Pharaoh doesn't really mean king. Pharaoh means nothing like king. The word Pharaoh is two words put together. Per-ao. Pharaoh. That's the word. It means great house. Or, the hieroglyphic for house is also the same image or picture for gate. The great gate. Isn't that cool? Pharaoh was considered the son of God. He was considered fully man, full deity. And he was the way to God. Amazing. Incredible. This idea carried on to other kings and other kingdoms and other cultures because they wanted that same stature of a pharaoh. So when sultans came along in the Ottoman Empire, one of their Arabic titles was Al-Bab al-Ali. Bab, we know from Babylon, is door. Al-Ali is exalted. The exalted door. Incredible. Now, this is Pharaoh today. That handsome-looking young man right there, that's the great house right there. That's the hope of humanity for salvation. Right there it is. Yeah, pretty. The reason why I picked this guy is because this guy is Seti. Now Seti, I like Seti. Because, you know why? Because in biblical scholars believe, think, assume, presume, whatever the word you want to use, that Seti's daughter is the one that picked Moses up from the Nile. So he's, Moses' kind of sort of father. Pretty sweet. But that's where he is right now. He's actually in the Egyptian Museum, resting in peace. Yes. And then Jesus comes along. Now Jesus comes along and gives himself some awesome titles. Awesome titles. Like he calls himself the I Am. He calls himself the Lion of Judah. He calls himself the Alpha and the Omega, the bright and morning star, the Word of God, the Son of God, the Prince of Peace. But he gives himself one more title that always bothered me. I am the door? Door? Really? Door? That's the best thing you could come up with? Door? Come on. But you know why he used door? Because of men like Pharaoh. Because of people who consider themselves gateways to God. And he said, no. I'm the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. And will go in and out and find pasture. In some translations he uses the word gate. But New King James has it best. Door. That's pretty cool. I think I could just stop right now, but actually there's more fun stuff coming. Okay. Now, the idea of threshold. Now we talked about, One more thing. Okay. Now, we talked about houses, your personal house. And then we talked about moving into altars. We talked about, temples. Now let's talk about something bigger, something even more grander. Let's talk about cities and countries and empires. The border of an empire. And see, people around the time of pharaohs, what they would do is when they would reach the farthest extent that they could, and I don't want any more land. I am sick and tired now. I want to go back home. I'm done. You know what they would erect? They would erect an altar. You know what that altar looked like? It looked like a doorway. They would put 2 stone pillars next to each other, and they would say, this is the edge of my border, there's the 2 stone doors, and I'm going to sacrifice an animal in between those 2 stone pillars, and I'm going to invoke my God, whoever it is I worship, to stand at that doorway and protect my boundary. So everything outside, I don't care about, doesn't belong to me. Everything inside, you, my God, are going to protect me. That's the deal. I've sacrificed the animal. I've given you money. I've worshipped you. You got my back. I'm going to go back, and I expect this line to stay where it's at. That's the deal. It's interesting. Nebuchadnezzar. His dad didn't call him Nebuchadnezzar because he wanted him to be picked on at school. His dad called him Nebuchadnezzar because Nebuchadnezzar means literally, Nebo, protect your boundary. Nebo, God of wisdom for the people back in modern day Iraq. Nebo, God of wisdom, protect my border. And he named his firstborn son a sentence that gives honor to this Nebo dude. Interesting. The same concept happens in Genesis 15. Let's go there. This is pretty sweet. So this is God's covenant with Abram. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just give you the headlights. Headlines. Did I say headlights? Wow. See, this is why I don't like these things being recorded. Okay. So then God shows up to Abram and says, "Hey, don't freak out. Don't be afraid. I'm your God. I'm with you." And Abram's like, "You promised kids? No kids? What's going on? It's not working, man. I'm getting freaked out here." And he says, "No. Look at the sky." "Okay, what's up?" "Well, see the lights? See all the lights there? The headlights? See? I knew there was a reason for it. See all the headlights? Well, as many headlights as you can count, that's the number of descendants you're going to have." And he believed. And it says something very interesting. It says, Abram believed, and he credited to him as righteousness. Very good. But then, verse 7 says, God also said to him, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it." But Abram said, "O sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it?" That's interesting. God just promised you're going to have a lot of kids, and you believed, and it was credited to you as righteousness. Now he says you're going to have this border, and you're having issues with it? Come on. But no, see, with Abram, God showed him a sign. He showed him the stars in the sky. And he said, "That's your sign right there. Every night you look at those stars, you think of your kids." So he's got something to look at. Now God said, "Here's land. From here on out, it's all yours." Where's my sign? Give me a sign, man. Give me a sign. So God said, "Okay, sure. I'll give you a sign. Get 3 animals, plus, birds. Get the 3 animals. Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and the young pigeon." Verse 10, Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he didn't cut in half. It's interesting. So what did Abram do? 3 animals, cut them in half, put them on either side. Put a pile. Pile of 3 animals, 3 halves on top of each other. What is it looking like? Doorposts again? Interesting. Okay, blood flowing in between those 2 doorposts made of animal carcasses. And then, if you go down to verse 18, on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, before that, verse 17, and the sun had set, darkness had fallen, a smoke fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, "To your descendants I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river of the Euphrates." What did God just do? He gave him a sign, and he made a covenant with him. It's called a border or a boundary covenant.